Hello, Mechwarriors, and welcome to the Mech Bay, where we fix your mech and fix your game. What's going on, Mechwarriors? I'm your host, Josh. I've got my co-host, Lore Master Denim, in the hot seat with me today.
Howdy, howdy.
And we are the Mech Bay Podcast, your number one source for all things casual to competitive tabletop BattleTech. And today, we are talking about the mandatory, the optional, and the completely rejected. That's right, we're talking about optional rules, because if you didn't know, BattleTech in itself is optional. Because unlike some of us, you haven't been held down by a Manny-dominated agent and forced to roll 12s to save your life. But before we get into all of that, we've got some hobby news, hobby progress, games played, and some upcoming events to talk about. And I think the big thing, which we might as well just roll it out now, is the big secret that nobody could keep.
Oh, geez, right. Officially, I'm not allowed to say anything about this. However, since everybody knows, unofficially, looks like we're getting Savannah Masters, right?
Yeah, it looks like we're getting two per pack, maybe. A red one, blue one.
I did not actually see the video that was leaked, but
I saw the screen grabs. There's a little box, looks like, salvagey box, and it looks like it's got two Savannah Masters on the front of it, which makes sense because vehicles come in twos now.
I mean, it's one of those secrets that everybody knew. It just wasn't confirmed until now, but everybody knew that they were coming. Like, you can't not have Savannah Masters. It's just not going to happen.
I don't know. I feel like the world could have gone without Savannah Masters.
I totally disagree. No.
These masters of the Savannah hovercraft.
Yep, I've got one of my old metal ones around here somewhere. I was packing up and it was I was under my desk. I'm like, oh look, there's a Savannah Master on a hex base just under my desk. They're all over the place.
Oh man. Two things. I need everyone to know this is a Gabriel family household. Like in this family, we use the 360 degree turret hovercraft that's 5 tons.
Yeah, no, I'm sticking with the Savannah Master. Overwhelming numbers.
But Gabriel, for just like I don't even know, like 1 BV more, you get 360 medium laser.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Fine. Gotta
go cheap.
Fine.
I'm only firing once, and I'm either going to slam it. This kamikaze Savannah Masters.
I love the Gabriels, but I'm happy for Savannah Masters.
Yeah.
The second thing is I thought of this, and my ex Warhammer brain went, Savannah Masters are the Land Raiders of the 40K universe, as in you think they're called that because they are the master of the Savannah or the raider of the land, and it's the weird stupid retcon of no, they're named for the person.
They are, right? Yes. I remember reading about that a long time ago.
It's so dumb. It's like, why is this hovercraft named Savannah Master? Well, the pilot they all killed was Savannah Master, so they posthumously named it after the test pilot they killed.
Yep.
Yeah. Stupid. But yeah, so we got Savannah Masters coming. I'm happy. You're happy. I mean, we got Shallones in the first one, so it's like 99% more usability right now. All right. So that's the secret thing that isn't released, but I guess we're going to get with the Kickstarter, possibly, perhaps. Maybe. The next thing is apparently the day after we released our last episode, Rec Guide 33 came out. And I was disappointed because I really wanted to talk about the return of the Rec Guides.
We did mention that there was a Rec Guide 33 coming out.
Yeah, we just didn't know it was coming out the next day.
Right, exactly.
So what do we got in 33? We got a bunch of vehicles, which, I mean, the last group was, but it's we got harassers. Everyone loves harassers. We got scorpion light tanks. We got partisans. We got this new little hunter. Adorable. I love them.
Yep, I like it. It's cute.
Strikers. Everyone remembers stomping those in HBS BattleTech.
I know. The Striker was the tank that was on the cover of the 3026 Whatever the old original.
Yes, it is the original vehicle technical readout vehicle thing. It's definitely had a glow up.
It looks good. Looks good.
Yeah, we haven't gotten new art for that ever, I don't think.
No. Just the original.
No. I mean, it's really just like an APC with a missile launcher on it, like LRM and an SRM. Like, it was definitely low priority on getting new art.
Well, this new one in the 33 has vehicular stealth armor.
Why they gotta do that, man?
Stealth light tank, yeah.
I don't need that. I don't need that at all.
I love it.
We got a goblin. I love the goblin. Cute little guy. We got the SM Tanks Destroyer, which I get. I never encountered one. I know that's like the lore of like the old lore, like they use those.
That's got the weird dual cockpit.
Yeah.
Thing. So you got that big gun in the middle, and you've got like the driver and the gunner are on opposite sides of this giant gun. That just seemed weird to me, like always.
It's
I'm sure it
definitely
adds
not phallic
to the
whatsoever. No,
yeah.
no phallic imagery in that art at all. We got some mechs. I think we have to go with like the obvious winner of this rec guide, which was the Loki Mark II, the Hell.
Yeah, the Loki traditionally has overgunned and under armored, but this one's pretty good.
Oh my god, they fixed everything and made it a second model, and it's upcharged just on it.
Yeah.
What else we got? We got the Jeer Falcon. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it, folks.
Heard it here first, second, third.
I like the two Ultra AC5s with large laser and partial winged. Like, it's just a fast, jumpy, harasser, annoy you kind of mech.
Yep.
We got Blood Reaper, which I feel like this is like a new one, but in the sense of like I remember someone talking about this, like making it for like a book, and like now it actually is going to have like actual model and everything.
It's one of your type of mechs because it comes with coolant pods, 3 of them. So you know that sucker's hot.
The old art, I think I had seen it once in like the old model, and I was like, this is definitely a leave it. I'll put it that way. But now this looks real good, and it's got multiple variants.
Models gonna look cool.
Yeah, I mean, my brain's remembering now. It was like some Clan Wolf like trial. He piloted this one thing that only had one variant, and I was like, fine. I'm not buying a single use mech like that. But now it's actual mech. Yeah, right. We got the Hatamoto Chi, which
rock on.
Just has like a Dark Age glow up.
Yeah, I mean it's the Kurita variant of a thug. Like that's all a Hatamoto Chi is. But
that's all it is.
It's traditionally the thug is better, like it's more efficient. But screw that. It's Kurita. I'm buying it.
It lacks aesthetic.
No, it adds aesthetic.
Yeah, no, the thug lacks aesthetic.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We got the Spartan. Not a huge fan of this version, but I think they just a lot of toys on it. It's fun. It's just not for me. We got the Naga T because
took the clan needs more artillery. Yeah,
I just love like we took the same Naga, we changed 10% of it and made a new variant. I'm like, did you have to? We talked about this like 2 episodes ago.
I do like the arms better on this model than on the original.
I don't know. I kind of like the grocery bag carrying and it definitely has big Wumbo energy when you look at the old model. And I'm not even going to say I have no regrets about buying the old model. Like, I don't know, last month.
Josh regretting anything? No way.
Who knows? Who knows when we'll get that? And we got the Mauler, which I think you said it is.
We do.
Oh yeah, we got a Mauler.
Look, am I going to get a Mauler? Yes, because I have to complete my Somerset Striker Lance pack. I have to. Will I field a Mauler? Sure, but I'm not going to like it. I'm not going to enjoy it. I'm going to put it out there and I'm going to make it do its job. But Maulers are they're just not good. They're just not good.
I feel like this would be fun though. Like it might not be good, but it might be fun.
Yeah, I mean, you still can't fire all of its weapons. It's still light on armor. It's still super slow, but I will role play it to have Hank or whatever his name is piloting that. Whoever the sergeant was in Somerset Strikers. Yep. So I'll have him out there chomping on a cigar, yelling at people while he ineffectively tries to participate.
And the last one we got is a Thunderhawk, and this me and you were talking about this. This feels weird, but I like it, but I'll never use it.
It's weird. It really is. He's got 4 ER medium lasers and 3 Thunderbolt 20s. If you have AMS, it's like, well, it either shoots the whole thing down or it gets through. So it's all or nothing.
You got 50-50 chance. Are you feeling lucky, punk?
A minimum range of 5, short range of 6. It's there, and if it's in minimum, I think it does half damage anyway. It's something weird. There's all kinds of weird stuff for the Thunderbolt launchers.
Friends don't let friends play Thunderbolts. I know you love that Shadowhawk that has like 5 Thunderbolt 5s, because you know what? Medium lasers, we don't need those. Add missiles.
Yeah, I have played that one, and I believe that was one of the only times I've ever run out of ammo using a Shadowhawk. So, yeah, I don't think it killed anyone, but I fired all the missiles, all of them.
But yeah, so that's Wreck Guy 33. Like I said, I think the Loki Mark II is the like definite winner poster boy of that one. But was there anything else that you really liked in that?
I mean, I like the Haramoto Chi. The one with the heavy PPCs is pretty cool. It's also a bit slow, but I like how it looks a lot. I like that new model. But the tanks, I like some of the tanks. Super lots. I will be using that Striker tank. I'll even use the Hunter one, though, the one that only has the Clan LRM-20 and Artemis.
The Hunter will be really fun. The Hunter light support tank. He's just a little guy at 35 tons.
Yep.
And I feel like I must have just skimmed over it, but there's a Karnov UR transport.
The stealth guy.
Stealthy.
Yeah, this is the tech readout that had all the stealth units in there. But yeah, all it has is an ECM and stealth armor, and it's used to transport stealth battle armor into battle. You never see it coming.
Alrighty then, 33. Yeah, we got something new. The Catalyst Twitter / social media says something new coming January 20th, I think. And that would be
big mailed fist on it.
Yeah, what's that?
What could it be?
Yeah, and this is 99% chance a camo specs how to paint Steiner. I had completely forgotten because like they say keep posted here for more info, and they never post anything else. And I realized we had missed the Federated Suns and the Jade Falcon painting guides.
I saw the Jade Falcon one come out. I did miss the Federated Suns.
I'm like the advertisement for the hype building is not following through on the actual, hey, here's the product now, go get it. So I ran through the Fed Suns and the Jade Falcon ones today, and I thought they were decent. I don't have a lot of room to complain. I liked the Jade Falcon one had like more of a how to do battle damage and paint that for their guide, and I thought that was neat.
Yeah, because you're doing Jade Falcons, you're gonna take battle damage. So,
but they're so humble. They would never show it off. They would never do that. And the Fed Suns one was a guide on how to do airbrush. So I liked that, like, hey, you probably know how to paint a little bit. Here's like a guide for something else. And I felt like that was something the Smoke Jaguar one did not do.
I'm really hoping that they're taking feedback from the earlier ones and modifying the next few based on that. So hopefully they'll just get better and better.
Yeah, that first one, not great. These two, not bad. I enjoyed looking through here's all the different companies of like, House Davians, military. Like I enjoyed like, this is what it looks like on the table. So yeah, so we'll wait for next episode to talk about that.
Me too.
Let's talk some hobby progress. All right. I feel like I've talked a lot. Denim, have you gotten any hobby progress done?
I have packed up all of my stuff. I packed up my airbrush. I packed up my 3D printer. So no, I have not gotten any hobby progress, and I won't until March. So there.
I'm gonna sit you down at the game store and make you paint one model.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I can do that. I just can't do it with my stuff.
Well, I've gotten some hobby progress in. What did I do? I finally, to like just kick off 2024, I decided to wrap up some projects that I'd left on the table, like literally left on the table. And I finally glued my Undine battle armor that I've had since like okay, which one
story about that. Is this the one? Because I remember you asking me one time when you were trying to come up with a list for one of your Alpha Strike games, and you were like, I want to use the Undine battle armor, and I'm like, Josh, that's a great idea. Knowing I believe this is the one that only operates underwater, if I'm not mistaken. Knowing that there's no water on those maps for you to deploy in, and I thought that would have been hilarious for like somebody at the table to tell you that. But
you know what hurts right now? They're not Undine. I thought they were. Then I looked it up. They're salamanders.
All right, this is probably you probably thought that at the time when you were doing it and called them Undine, and I was like, yeah, those are underwater ones. Go for it. They probably were salamanders then too.
I definitely remember thinking like these would be good conversions for like they look very underwater.
Oh, I like salamander armor. Like I have used those in the RPGs a bit. They're cool. I like those.
But no,
never used Undine.
These are salamander battle armor.
Gotcha.
Completely different, unrelated.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean the opposite, really. Water and fire. Yep.
I think it's like the name salamander makes me think like, oh yeah, salamanders live in water, instead of thinking the old like mythological like salamanders came out of logs, waterlogged logs, and then you throw them in the fire and they'd come out, and like, oh, salamanders are associated with fire. I'm like, no, salamander associated with water.
No, flaming salamanders.
Maybe that's newts. Is there newt battle armor? Anyways, yeah, so I finally got those glued on, which I've had those for like 2 years. So glue those to a base. I'll think of something. I was going to submerge them in water. Not going to do that anymore. I'll get the actual aquatic battle armor for that.
If there was newt battle armor, I would put them in charge.
Oh,
those who get it. Those who don't, sorry.
I don't, but we're just going to move on. What else? I had purchased a second Phalanx battle armor, so I ripped off my like Seafox one and like gave it a friend. So like now there are 2 Phalanx battle armor glued to one base. I was like, okay, all right, we're just consolidating battle armor right now. I've got some Sylph battle armor that I was gonna clip the jetpacks off of to make the like running Sylphs. It's like, okay, 3 for 3, we can do this. And then I decided I talked so badly about the baboon last episode. So badly. And you know how much
we actually got a lot of comments about that. We did. Like we got more comments about that than almost any other topic that we've mentioned on here.
Leave baboon alone.
I think we could do better.
Yeah. So
what's your solution to this?
So I glued the heavy PPC from a Titan model onto the missile launcher to make the Devil / baboon mark custom Devil.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's the Devil mech, which is Rec Guide, and then there's the variant of the baboon, which is lighter, which just has an ERPPC. And I was like, fine. Now I have a good baboon.
I mean, have you run it on the table yet?
I have not run it on the table.
Let's run it on the table, and then we'll decide if it's a good baboon or not.
Oh, why you gotta hurt me like that? I love my single.
I mean, it sounds like a pack hunter, is what it sounds like.
Look, I don't like pack hunters, and this is going to be real weird going to my next sentences. I don't know why, but I really like mechs with a single gun on the right torso. Says the man who, next part of the hobby progress, I bought a Hollander.
Finally stopped staring at it long enough to hit the buy button.
Yeah, so I finally gave in and went to fortressminiaturesandgames.com, and I was like, you know what? I started a new job this week. I deserve a little treat. I was like,
now, did you get the original Hollander, or did you get the Hollander 3 or whatever?
I got the Hollander 3 because I'm lame.
Okay. All right. Well, now if we both field Hollanders, one of us will have the OG, and we can see which one's better.
Yeah. Well, I also thought, I was like, the Hollander 3 technically is a heavy Gauss rifle. I'm like,
Which means every time you fire it, you might fall over.
I want to fall down. I get back. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You only take the penalty if you move and fire. If you move,
that's true.
Stop and then fire. You're good.
It's such a light mech that you better be moving.
I'm braced.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to paint like brace or back blast on it.
I mean, the Hollander is such an anime type style mech. Like you can see it just stomp those feet into the ground before it fires. You know, that smoke curl around the whole thing when it goes. Yeah.
I already bought it. You don't need to sell it to me more. But no, I've been wanting one since like Mech Commander 2. Like I want to say that was one of my top mechs in that game. Just watching the like little thing fire and the Gauss. Like the game was so bad, the Gauss actually drifted to the target. Like, oh, it rolled and it hit. Now the round has to actually find the target.
Yeah. I played that game a lot.
Yeah, so if I have any weird mech choices, it's probably because that was formative years for me. Hollanders, Vultures, Blood Asp. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense now. Swarm LRMs. Terrible in the tabletop. Wonderful in the video games.
We were just talking about that yesterday, the Swarm LRMs. Yep.
They're definitely a thing.
They are a thing.
What else? So I bought a Hollander. Finally gave in for that at Fortress. I also bought a Uziel. Oh,
I like the Uziel. I like those a lot. It's an inner sphere mech, but it checks off all my little boxes. It's a medium mech. It's got some PPCs. It jumps. So it's got it's my striker. It's a striker style. Love it.
Yeah. Well, I had added, gotten the Hollander, gotten the Uziel, and I was like, well, it's a nice cake. What's the frosting? And I bought some Rottweiler battle armor and some Fenris battle armor, or Fenris, one of those. The little dog. Fenrush. There we go. We'll just blur at the end. Oh man, it's almost
those are both quad battle armor, right?
Those are both quad battle armor.
Yeah.
Specifically, they're both Lyran quad battle armor.
I would hate to pilot one of those. It might be relaxing, but probably not.
The lore says one of those is like comfy because you can kind of like sit down actually.
So it's like the Harley chopper style of seating on the inside.
I mean, I looked at the tonnage and I was like, some of these are like an actual size of a like car, like a sedan or something. Like at that point, you can sit down in them.
If it's too comfy, well, then it's not power armor anymore. It's not battle armor. And it's just an armored vehicle. It's a Tron motorcycle.
It's a proto mech, some might say. Proto vehicle. Proto quad mech.
Yeah.
Someone is like screaming like, no, the quad battle armor, you have to like animal it. If that person goes upstairs on all fours, I'll tell you that right now. All right. So yeah, that's my hobby progress. Some buying, some modding. That's about it.
Yeah.
Do books count as hobby progress?
Reading books counts as hobby progress. Owning them or looking at them does not.
I finished 3
books, not started, but finished 3 books.
Okay, so I finished 2 and started and finished 1. So you could legally say I finished 2 books, completed 2 books in total length, or I resolved and finished 2 books that I had started previously in 2023 and started 1 and finished that. So whichever way you split it, I read more than 1 book.
It sounds like you went on vacation.
I did go on vacation. You start a new job. You got to take a little time off. And I was just at the beach with some friends, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna read BattleTech books this whole time.
And do you know which ones it was that you read?
I do. So, shall we go in order of
the order that you finished them?
Okay, all right. Order that I finished them in. The first one I finished was Isle of the Blessed.
Okay.
And that is the Jihad era, like Battle Corps anthology one that was like
it's Battle Corps, but okay.
Battle Core. Sorry. I'm sorry. I get that wrong all the time. I've been yelled at multiple times. That is the Word of Blake attacking New Avalon.
Yep.
And I think that's got to be my new favorite book. BattleTech book, at least. And it definitely had some parallels to the Battle of Tukiad. Like, I really enjoyed the flip-flopping between, like, both sides. So you kind of got the whole picture. Like, I realized that this week that I enjoy getting all the perspectives in a book.
I've seen that done really well in a lot of books, not just BattleTech books, but it helps to give some confusion about who the bad guys are, and it just goes to show that nobody thinks that they're the bad guy. Like, everybody's fighting for whatever they believe in, and bad guy, good, bad, morality. It's a matter of perspective.
But yeah, that was 10 out of 10. Loved it. Favorite scene was a mech attacking Purifier battle armor, and it's just like on the tabletop. You roll dice, it happens. In lore, it's like the size of the mech compared to the size of the battle armor, and the pilot reacting as it runs away.
Kaiju battle fight. It's a Godzilla in my imagination whenever that happens.
The man punched the battle armor out of the air.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I had to flip back and reread that whole paragraph again just to enjoy it. It's like, oh, this is good. But yeah, that was great. I loved it. And then I followed that up with Hunters of the Deep, the Dark Age.
The Seafox.
Seafox.
Yeah.
I think that's like one of the... No, that's not the first book, but it's like the early series of the Dark Age. And I don't want to say that was awful, but I definitely struggled with that.
It was slow.
It was very slow.
There was a lot of there's something cool that this is leading up to, right? Right? Yeah.
Oh boy, I can't wait to see how this three-way battle happens. And they literally gloss over it, like, and it happened. I'm pretty sure the words used.
It was 100%. It was like if you saw the Wing Commander movie with Matthew Lillard in it, like the whole movie is hyping up to this one giant battle, like against the Kilrathi, and then as the credits roll, they're just like, and there was a battle, and that's it. Like, you never got to see the battle. Yeah, that's how that book felt, for sure.
I was like, did we run out of pages? Could we not have talked about this? We spent like a whole like chapter describing a fake Canopian pleasure circus, but I couldn't get more than like, and he fought a panther.
Yeah.
And then the main character fights the antagonist, and he gets knocked down. And then he wins. And I was like, wait, what? How did he got knocked down? And he just won somehow? A trial of annihilation just there? Localized entirely in your kitchen? Can I see it? No. It definitely felt like,
oh, he was losing big time, but then somehow he got this little golden ball thing with wings, and he just won.
Yeah, no, it really felt like I wasn't mad, but I was pretty close to. I wasted a whole day reading this.
Well, that's the point, is that they wore you down so much that you had no emotions to be mad at the end of it. So, like, whatever. Like, figures. It tracks. And then how about the third one?
I finished Embers of War.
Okay.
Yeah. Another Word of Blake early jihad.
Is that the one that follows the stealthy tigers?
Stealthy tigers, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I have both read that one and listened to the audiobook, and I enjoyed it both ways.
That one also had a little of the same symptom where the main character...
Oh, I like that one.
...blacks out and like a lot of stuff happens, and I was like, what? But the main takeaway from all three of these books is, if I had a nickel for every time the like special forces assassin / lady was a lady, I'd have 3 nickels. It wasn't terrible men writing women levels, but I definitely chuckled. But no, so I read 3 books. Hey, I'm 3 for 3 for 2024.
The audiobook was narrated super well. I think I enjoyed listening to that. I read it first, then I listened to it, and I think I enjoyed it more the second time, having Trent Sparks read it to me.
Good to know. Did he like really give like, and the MRMs clunked into my arms?
Oh, he's fantastic. When he describes a mech battle, it feels like you're in that mech battle.
But yeah, so I got my books in. And then I got a games played in. Denim, you got some games in.
You got a game? Yeah, I got multiple games.
Why don't you talk about your games?
Last our podcast. My Tuesday games got delayed a bit because one, I was at the airport, and another one, we had that big storm and my windshield wipers just stopped working. So I'm not going to drive out in a storm like that with no windshield wipers. But we did have a campaign day, and I played 3 games there. So I was there for just over 12 hours that day.
You love it. You love it.
I do.
It's like a mini convention at your own store.
My voice was so bad the next morning. Well, I guess that was this morning because it was yesterday. Yeah.
And then I make you come on here and talk to people.
Yeah. No, the games were fantastic. We had a few new players, though. Some new to the campaign and some new to BattleTech. I think you can tell me about one of the new players, though, because you were there.
I was there. I decided to play in the intro table with you, Denim, and I also my wife. But yeah, so she took a crab, I took a greyhound, and the rest of the table was a griffin, flashman, and one other thing, a wolverine, another crab. That's why there were 2 crabs.
Your wife played the crab better though, because she had picked the animal mimicry and had that crab walk going along. It was it was well done.
She has a Solaris special crab that is painted like Mr. Krabs, has a sea bill hanging out of a claw, eye stalks with eyes painted on them, and it's painted in the Eugene Krabs from SpongeBob with a SpongeBob SquarePants like background art, like the weird like star kelp thing on the bottom with water effect with seaweed. And I'm like, I'm mad at how good this looks compared to anything I've ever put on the table.
It's like, if I take animal mimicry and I'm in a crab, can I do a lateral shift as if I was a quad? I'm like, how could I say no to that? I mean, it's a crab. It's gonna do this little crab walk.
Yeah, just crabbing. It's crabbing time. I just loved how at the start of the game she starts in the water, like submerged.
Yeah. It comes up out of the water. It was great. I loved every moment of it. I still shot her in the back, but but she survived.
She did. She was like, she survived better than most people there.
Yeah.
But no, that was actually a good game. I hadn't played in one of those in a while, so it was nice to kind of like, all right, step out of the DMC, just have some fun, roll some dice, take it casually.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
It was quite enjoyable, even if I could barely roll to save my life.
Josh says, I'm going to take the fast Greyhound tonight. This is going to be awesome. And on turn 2, I get
turn 1. It was turn 1.
Was it turn 1? Okay,
yeah.
Cool. You turn 1, tack and crit the supercharger. Bam. You go slow and you'd like it.
You hit me with a locust.
Mm-hmm.
With like
a locust that ran 28.
Yeah, a small laser and medium laser hit me.
I go fast, you go slow.
So mad. Like, ugh. So mad. But yeah, that was my game played.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I had fun. My wife had fun. We'll probably be there again for next month's campaign. Do the same thing.
Yeah, she's got to upgrade that crab.
She was already debating on it, and she
Step
definitely...
Step 1, double heat sinks. Do it.
That's what I said, and then she was like, but what else do I do? I was like, whatever you want. Perfect. She's like, that's too much. I think she's doing the targeting computer and some medium pulses for the short range.
She'd do a targeting computer and hardened armor because she's a crab.
Ooh, hardened armor. I hadn't even thought of that. Mm-hmm. You know what? I'll have to break it like, hey, you want to be really annoying?
It would be too.
Yeah. I'm like, Denim's going to hate this.
I just suggested it. How am I going to hate it?
All right, let's wrap this up with some upcoming events. So we actually have LVO in like 5 days. So AKA,
I know it's coming up soon.
Oh, it really creeped up on us this year. We won't be there, but it's creeped up. Yeah, so that's LVO. We got Matt, the Northwind Highlander, with the Valhalla Club is running some stuff there. So if you are in the Las Vegas area, stop by and say hey to him. You've got the BattleTech Arctic Blast in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. I keep getting that wrong. I'm sorry. It's Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. And that's on the 20th, so that's this Saturday as well. That's Alpha Strike. And we also have a BattleTech Alpha Strike tourney in Greenville, South Carolina, also on the 20th. So whether you're in the north or the south, there's some BattleTech Alpha Strike for you.
Yeah, this weekend's a good weekend for BattleTech.
We also had the Adepticon events open up for entry.
Open up and then sell out immediately.
Yeah, so Denim, are you going to this sold out event thing?
Literally the same week that I am closing on my house and moving. So there is stop hosting events on years that I move to a new house, please.
It's okay. I also have the same problem of I'm taking a vacation to Portland.
You just took a vacation.
I took the work change vacation. Yeah. But I will be taking a semi-vacation in Portland on, what is it, March 9th? So if anyone's in the Pacific Northwest and wants to play BattleTech with Josh from the Mech Bay podcast on March 9th / that whole week, let me know. I'm really hoping to play BattleTech.
You say that. My brother lives up there now. He can play BattleTech with you.
I'll play the whole Hardman family.
It's going to take a while. It's a big family. But hey... Challenge accepted. 2024
bucket list. There we go. But yeah, so I'll be up there. So I will not be at Adepticon. I did want to go. I did actually want to do some of the other events. Like last year was the all competitive tournament, rah, Josh. And I really wanted to try the other half this year. So I was a little disappointed. But unfortunately, Dustin is also having life events that same week. So it's like March. Yeah, if we put an episode out in March, we're doing pretty good.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say that might not happen, but we'll see.
We'll see.
I'm hoping I could do campaign day in March. It's not looking great.
You'll just say it's Solaris and everyone pairs off.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You're like, really that's not a terrible idea, Josh.
We'll get Duncan Fisher to narrate it. I like it.
There you go. All right, you want to take a quick break, and then we gnaw into our main subject of optional rules and things we can't live without?
Sounds good.
If you are one of the hundreds of Mechwarriors living with tinnitus, infertility, heart palpitations, anxiety, or even death, you need to hear this. Some battle mechs listed in the report by Comstar titled Experimental Technical Readout have been found to contain untested equipment. If you or a loved one have piloted a battle mech with the prototype improved jump jets, quadruple strength Myomer, or even prototype double heatsinks, you may be entitled to compensation now. Hi, I'm Dale Cannon. Please call me today. We will fight to get you the justice you and your family deserve. All right, and we are back. And I think it's finally time that we really, really cracked open that tome known as the BattleTech Manual's optional rules section.
There are a surprisingly large number of optional rules in this book. I was prepping for this episode. I knew some of them. I did not realize it had as many as it does.
So I wanted to talk about this because of me looking at like a bunch of events, like large events like Adepticon and stuff. And a lot of these have like, hey, here are the optional rules we are using. And I was like, everyone uses optional rules. What really are optional rules? Why do they exist? Why are some like mandatory and why are others optional kind of things? So like, it's not just like in a game like, here's the alternate way you can play. It's like, no, here's the 1,000 other optional rules to tweak BattleTech into the game you want. And I'm like, I think that deserves going into a little deeper. Don't you think?
Oh, I agree. Optional rules are definitely something that I use in every game.
When I say optional rules, what do you think of?
Oh, like immediately what comes to mind are people asking about floating crits or specifically about flamers and do they do both like damage and heat. But actually optional rules covers a ton of things, including just using BSPs or smoke and fire effects. So it can cover a bunch of things.
Yeah, optional rules are just like everything else.
Right.
I hate that it's that broad, which is one of the problems, but it's like really a lot of BattleTech manual is just optional in itself.
There are a lot of things that, the book would be a lot smaller if they did not include any of the optional rule stuff at all.
Can you imagine not even the BattleTech manual or BattleMech manual? It'd be the BattleMech handbook, like just a little like flip. Like
it'd be a paperback. Yeah, there's no hardback version. Yeah.
I dig that.
You just fold it up and stick it in your back pocket like a comic book.
I mean, I guess that is like the Game of Armored Combat stuff. They could have made it thicker, but smaller, dimension-wise. How about that? Yeah. But no, that is also kind of what I think of. Like, I guess,
BattleTech without optional rules is the rule book that comes in the Game of Armored Combat. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is really it.
Yeah.
Like, vehicles, also optional.
Yeah.
Beginner box, heat, optional.
Oh, man.
Internal structure, also optional.
I'm okay with the internal structure. I kind of don't like heat being optional. I understand, I get it, but
everyone just plays with a Shadowhawk. It never even comes into effect.
Yeah, mech that can take 2 engine hits and still not notice.
But yeah, no, I also kind of think of things like floating crits, flamers, careful stand. Those are things of when I hear optional rules. Big question is, why do optional rules exist? Like, but why? Why are these optional?
Right. I mean, a lot of it, from my understanding, is a lot of people have played BattleTech for a long time. It is one of those games, one of the few games I've ever heard of that this year is its 40th year, and it's never had a BattleTech 2.0. Like, we are using the same core rules as they had when they came out with the box set, the first box sets. So the core rules obviously work, but when you've got 40 years of playing, there have been a lot of house rules coming up where people like either misunderstood it or in their head, they're like, yeah, but this makes more sense, or I like this better. And filtering out those house rules throughout the years, the most popular ones, they decide that hey, this actually does make sense, but we don't want to change the core rules, so we'll just make this an optional rule and put it into the rule book. That way, people can actually use it in tournaments and store play without having to remember it. Like, it's written down somewhere. It's canonized. It's legal for tournament play if you allow it, because it is in the BattleMech manual. So that is I have not talked to people in the know about this. This is my understanding. This is how I believe it worked.
Yeah, it always felt like these are things we would like to make official, but we just can't, whether it be logistics of we can't rewrite the rule book every time we think of something better, or like some of these are more complicated. Like, that's just the nature of the game. Like, the way it is written originally is simple and works 99% of the time. And this optional rule that used to be a house rule, like a fix, is like, hey, we can't do that, for like putting it in for all cases would just be unfeasible.
Right. Or like, something like floating crits totally makes sense. The fact that you can only do a pass-through crit on a torso location, it just made a lot of people confused why it couldn't be all over. And so a lot of people are like, let's just do it this way. And it became so popular that everyone's like, let's just make that an option. So it doesn't really fix anything, but it does make it more realistic, in quotes, on some way or another. But I agree that it should have been an optional rule. I don't think that it should have been changed officially to all attacks are floating crits. So I do like the fact that it is an optional rule. Do
you like how optional rules are treated?
I mean, I do. I think they're fine the way they are. I guess maybe I don't understand with what you mean by how they're treated. I like how I like how they're presented in the book. I like that on page 147 of the BattleMech manual, you've got the battlefield tracking sheet that has the optional rules checklist. So at the beginning of a game, if there's any question, you can actually go through all of the optional rules in the book and ask your opponent, are we playing with this turned on or off? So it's like the settings in a video game where you just go through and start checking the ones that you want to play with or not. So I like how accessible and easy it is because they have the page numbers for them listed right there. But I also think that some of them probably shouldn't be optional, and some of them I will probably never, ever, ever, ever use ever.
Some of them I would optional back to the original rule if given the chance.
Yeah.
But no, I guess my thing is like there is a whole book, which is what I like to call House Rules Canonized.
Oh, you're talking about the Tactical Operations book, aren't you?
Yes, which is where most of these originally lived, I should say.
The Tactical Operations book is just the place where optional rules are born. Every single thing in that book is an optional rule. So that is the optional rules book. And then the optional rules level 2 is strategic operations. Like that's the are you sure ? Rules.
You're doing a campaign, you're doing Mega Mech, you are doing some weird RPG level thing where the rulebook just doesn't cover all the scenarios you want to do.
Right. You want to go deeper.
Yeah.
So
I want to turn my medium laser's damage down to like 1 to like just tickle something.
But why?
Somebody somewhere wanted to. I don't know.
Oh, you mean like the ability to tune your medium laser?
Yes.
So make it basically down to as low as a laser pointer, or overcharge that sucker and risk breaking it whenever you fire it, but it puts out a little bit more juice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got rules for that. It's probably got a table too. I don't know.
Oh, everything has a table, man. But yeah, so I wanted to separate this into my 3 favorite ways, which is the good, the bad. But the bad was a little too harsh. We're going to go with the good, the okay, and then the ugly. And that's
and looking at where you put yours on this piece of paper, we're going to have some discussions because I do not agree with some of them.
Oh, totally.
But that's good. Yeah.
BattleTech would be boring if everyone agreed with the way Josh wanted to play.
I was going to say, again, we are not going to cover every single optional rule because that would be boring. You guys can go get a book and read through it, and you can see what they all are. These are just the ones that mean the most to you and I, Josh, to you and me.
I was going to make a joke that, like, I don't know if our listeners can read, but then I realized we're an audio-only format, so they don't really have to read.
Yeah. So you want to start with the good? Because that's one we probably agree on most of those.
Let's start with all reliable floating critical hits.
See, already we are at a disagreement.
Yeah, I know. Some people love it, some people hate it. But I put it in with the note, our bread and butter.
The floating crit is mentioned at almost every game because like you said, some people love it, some people hate it. I am fine with it, but my inclination is to not go with it. But I understand that a lot of people like it, and I'm okay with playing it if 100% of the people at the table are okay with it. If even one person is like, I don't know, I'm like, that's fine, it's off the table. We're not playing with that. I will be the first one to just knock it right out there because I don't know. There's something about it. Yeah, there's something about it that just feels a little bit off to me. Probably because the first game I ever used it in, somebody rolled the head and it critted an ammo bin that I had in the head. And that felt bad. And that felt bad so much so that it is the shockwaves I'm still feeling to this day.
I still put ammo in the torso in like CT, and I'm like, that's the most armored location.
Oh, so but
I just find it hilarious. Armored. Someone was like, no, the safest place is in the cockpit because there's only 1 in 36 chance of hitting it.
Yeah, exactly. In 30-25 tech type stuff, ammo in the head is actually pretty legitimate. It may not be the most armored, but you're not going to hit it as often. So, and if you're penetrating the head, like it's just going to be bad for you. 50% of the rolls in there are just death for you. So,
what's a little more death?
Yeah.
But no. So yeah, I find that hilarious. It's like, yeah, he had that one slot. He could have put, extra air conditioning, more life support, better sensors. No, he stuck a ton of AC-5 ammo.
Yep. 20 rounds, 100 points of damage. I'm sitting on. Yeah.
No, I agree that this is not always amazing. Like, this is not perfect. This is not mandatory. We did not use this for the Triangle Classic tournament.
No, we did not.
And there are reasons. It can slow the game down because if you shoot an LB-20 multiple times, you're going to get a crit, and you're going to roll, and you're going to float it, and it's going to hit something like a hip, and you have to fully stop. You have to recalculate movement. You have to do a PSR. All that PSRs are now harder. It's like, at that point, you might as well just hit the gyro, which everyone knows is just +3.
Right. Yep.
You hit the engine,
so,
you're just +5 heat. Blech.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you need to hit my shoulder and just make, all the weapons on that arm harder to hit?
+4.
It's not needed. Like not all of the things that happen to a mech are better by floating.
Yeah.
It just can slow the game down or drag it out, which is good for campaigns.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
And that's where we use it the most, I think.
But in campaigns, I also give all the players an edge point. So there, take that.
So they can re-roll when you turn 1 your supercharger. I find it funny that it was like, all right, lower 6 is supercharger, lower 5 is the SRM ammo bin.
I know.
I was like, people
funnier.
roll 6-6 more times than they roll 6-5, in my opinion.
I rolled a lot of 6-6 that game too. A lot.
Don't put ammo in the bottom, put it in the next shelf.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, floating crits, I'm take it or leave it. You like it more than I do. But yeah, it is definitely on the bread and butter list because it is a polarizing one. A lot of people really like it.
Definitely polarizing. All
and
right.
I'm okay with playing with it. I am.
Yes.
But it's not my first choice.
You have to recognize what it brings and what it takes away.
Right. All right. Some other ones that are always being used. Flamers do heat and damage. I do not know why that's just not how they work. Flamers, I think, without that rule are just inefficient. I don't like them. I would never take them without this optional rule being turned on.
I agree that this is just how, like, if they had the chance, they should just rewrite it. Damage and heat.
Yep.
Because
it takes 3 heat to fire it, and then it does 2 heat or 2 damage.
In fact, I would probably go and like, hey, can we just rewrite the flamer rule entirely? Like, it currently does nothing against vehicles, nothing against protomechs, nothing against battle armor. Like, it has been outclassed as soon as you left Intro Tech.
Right. Like the only thing it's good at is infantry, like unarmored, just conventional infantry.
Basic infantry.
And in 30-25 tech, where everybody's got single heat sinks, if you have enough of them, you might be able to make the opponent a little bit slower. Like, that's it.
You just mess up their math by 1 or 2.
Yeah, it's not enough.
So yeah, I think this one, it can really be agreed on. Like, if you ever like told someone's like, no, I don't want to play with enhanced flamers, I'm like, bro, you think you even gonna get flavored? like we're getting fire starters in like a couple months. No one's scared.
Yeah, like, okay. Ooh.
Wow, what are you gonna do? Tickle me with the machine gun too? Oh man, you're gonna rapid fire those machine guns at me?
Rapid fire machine guns are vicious. That's also an optional rule. We'll get into that later.
That's also an optional. Yeah. So I'm like, no, it's enhanced flamers. No, nobody cares.
Yeah, turn that one on just all the time. Default on.
The only way I could see it is like if you do play like much lower BV and with infantry and stuff, like, okay, Locust, fire starters, commandos, stuff like that.
But if you're firing against infantry, you don't care about it doing damage anyway. You're just hitting them with a flamer. Like, it's not damage or flame. Like Yeah, so it's
but
specifically
like
an anti-infantry weapon.
The other mech, like, okay, you guys, like, the biggest weapon might be like 5 damage on the
with
table.
The
like
autocannon.
With the autocannon. Like, that might be it. So, like,
Yeah.
all right. But I'm really stretching the strong arm here of like,
it's not worth it.
It's not. All right. What else? What's next we got? I know that we've talked about this a lot, especially with one of us being a hardcore like Comstar Word of Blake player, and that's ECCM, which we talked about in depth on the ECM tinfoil episode.
Right. That is one that I did not realize was an optional rule for a long time when playing BattleTech. I thought that was just a thing. And so I was surprised when somebody's like, you can't do that because we're not playing with optional rules. I'm like, that's not an optional rule. ECCM is absolutely an optional rule. So check before you play. And ECCM is just allowing you to take your own ECM and convert it to electronic countermeasure modes for countering an ECM that's like countering your C3 network, stuff like that.
Yeah, this is essentially the, hey, we could have a feel bad experience if I completely just out networked you and like have guys on a hill 21 hexes away and they can shoot at short range. Like, like you have one ECCM, one Guardian with one cheap ECM, and now you can kind of like play on the same level, and they have to actually work harder.
It makes a C3 network go from totally useless to slightly more viable.
Yeah,
like I would not field a C3 network if I did not have ECCM capability. I just wouldn't do it. There's no point.
Yeah, because then it's like, okay, well, I counter your trap card, you counter my trap cards. Like, at least we're like having a little meta game there. We're having to move mechs with ECMs to fight those mechs and put bubbles over bubbles.
Sure, it slows the game down, but otherwise, literally, there's no point in C3. It just is not, because one ECM covers so much ground. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this. Go back to that episode. It's and you'll know my reasoning. I did not realize that this was an optional rule, so I don't think it should be. I think this should just be how it works by default. That's my opinion.
I mean, it's low brain power enough that it's default in like Mechwarrior Online. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. And sure, it's easier on Mega Mech where they actually color everybody's ECM bubbles different colors so you can see the whole Venn diagrams more easily. The games that I played on the tabletop, it slows it down a little bit, but it's not a game-breaking amount. It's pretty easy to figure out to go pretty quickly. So I like that one a lot.
All right, we got Careful Stand.
You are not a fan of Careful Stand.
I am not, and that's just because I don't like it when mechs that should be down and like on a 50-50, like, hey, if you get up, you could fall again, and then you might get up. Like, you're going to have to take a couple hits before you get up reliably into the, oh, well, I'm just going to get up now.
It's only a -2 to the roll, and I roll so poorly so many times while trying to stand up. I think that the downside to it, the fact that you cannot leave that hex once you stand up, so it limits all your options to just standing up. I think that is a good enough trade-off. Because if you want to move out of that hex and get to the woods over there, you have to regular stand. And there's stipulations. You have to have at least three movement points. So if you're missing a leg, you can't use Careful Stand to bring that number down at all. If you've got a hip damaged and your walking is a 2, so you're 2-3, you can't use it then. So there are ways that if you deserve to be on the ground, you're going to stay on the ground. I like Careful Stand. I'm not going to say that it should always be on, but I like using it. So for me, it's a good one.
I think the one reason why I have like a big problem with it is I went like years without anyone telling me about it, and I just had to suffer through mechs falling and falling and falling from like a foot actuator, or not even not even like a gyro, like a gyro out maybe, but not regularly.
Especially because you tend to pilot 4 or 5 mechs.
Yeah.
And when you've got a 5 piloting, and you're not using careful stand, it's not a 50-50. It's a 60% and above chance you're gonna fall back down on your face.
When you get up, you're running because you're gonna fall 2 out of this 3 times. And then by then you're just gonna have the movement to stand up. You're not moving anyways. Yep. So I'm putting more pilot hits on me. And I feel like that's probably why it's like I want more pilot hits to be self-inflicted.
It's the only way you're really going to get to 6 pilot hits by the end of the game.
Yeah.
Because if you're just doing head hits with damage, you're going to run out of armor and internals before you're going to get that sixth hit.
But I think for newer players, it's fine because you don't want
all players. It's fine.
You don't want them to be like, all right, well, I took a gyro tack hit. Threw over crit my gyro. What happens now? Well, you fall down, little Timmy, and you stay there.
+3 forever.
Yeah. It's like, but I'm a 4/5 pilot. It's like, ooh, should have upgraded that. Pilot skill.
No, I like careful stand. I play with it more often than I don't.
Here's one that we don't use very often,
but we should.
But we should. Like I agree.
So many mechs come with active probes. Yeah, some sort of probe. So many mechs have them, and you're like, well, great. What do I do with this? Nothing. But I've got it. It's got to do something. I'm like, sure, but no. Like it really doesn't. Oh, do we have hidden mechs? Maybe you can spot one from a little further away. But
we talked about this on that active probe episode. And it's like the hidden mechs. I was like, yeah. If I could do hidden mechs more effectively on the tabletop, like not in Mega Mech, but on the tabletop, we would bring active probes. But it's
right now, yeah.
It's like the only thing that you're in my hex, you're within range now. Like it pops up and you stop moving. It's like that's just not feasible. That's not how a tabletop game works.
It's so bad that when you do like mission based games. They have to come up with something. They're like, oh, well, you have to scan this building and you can't move or fire while you scan it unless you have an active probe because there's a lot of mechs with them and we have to make those guys, not waste that tonnage. So they got to be good for something. So we might as well make like completing this objective a little bit easier because your mech happens to have that one piece of equipment.
Hate that
so much. Yeah. So we get into the optional rules. There's a couple of them for active probes. The main one in the Battle Mech manual is targeting with an active probe. All it means is that if a target is in range of your active probe, you get to ignore one woods modifier for targeting purposes. So if it's in heavy woods, you treat it as if it's in light woods, or if there's an intervening woods, you can ignore that. So it helps you keep a target lock on him when there's other stuff in the way.
And you still have to be pretty close. Like it's still the beagles or probe
like 4
range.
to 6 hexes. Yeah.
You're in brawling range anyways.
It gives it something that it can do. So I like that. I like that a lot.
Or unless that Black Knight with a probe getting in brawling range.
Yeah. But if you can't quite kick it, at least you can shoot it and ignore those trees that it's in. There is other active probe like active probes are useful with some of the other optional rules that we have. So we'll get into that.
Yeah, the probes is when I definitely feel like, hey, we didn't have time to like fully think about what this equipment would do.
Yeah,
but now we do.
Books talk about probes all the time, so we have to put them on the mechs. Now, what do? I don't know. We ran out of time.
They're magic. Whatever happens, they scan the mech. You play a blind game, like you can't look at my sheets, I can't look at yours. Oh, you've got a probe. All right, well, you're in range. Now you can see what's happening on this target.
I played a double blind game on Mega Mech not too long ago. I had only ever played double blind on tabletop, and just it's magical. I am a huge fan of playing double blind on Mega Mech now. It was one of the most fun games ever.
Huh.
But not on tabletop. Tabletop is horrible. You need three identical map sheets and a GM to be able to pull it off. It's just not good.
We'll do that for Solaris.
Yeah, something small like that. Something small like that for like a tournament type thing. It would be fun. It just takes forever. I mean, it is. Yeah, we'll get into not this episode. That's not what it's about.
So those are ones that I consider are bread and butter. Like those are ones you can probably reliably use and no one's going to have too much of an issue with it. Do you have any ones to add to the bread and butter section?
I mean, yeah, but you're not going to like it.
I mean, that's okay. I don't like a lot of things.
Yeah. Force withdraw is an optional rule. I understand what force withdraw is trying to do, and I am familiar enough with it that it doesn't take me any like extra brain power, and especially in a campaign game. I love saying all you have to do is get the up 4 mechs into force withdraw to be able to get salvage on them. So it's just an easier way to make a game not take forever. Like I'm not fighting to the death, and now I have documented guidelines on when are my guys going to surrender or pull back. It's this. If it reaches any of these, that's when that ticker clicks over. So I do like the force withdraw, and I think it should be more of a default than an optional rule.
I've waxed poetic on force withdrawal too much. It just needs to be rewritten for me to enjoy it more. Just a little bit better. It needs a revision. Yeah. I'm okay with it.
I do like it. But okay, as long as you're okay with it, because it makes sense to me. Like it makes a lot of sense.
Yes, from in lore and in game perspective, it's like, hey, this infantry squad has lost 99% of its units. That one man has perfect morale. That's not how the BattleTech simulation world should work. I accepted that. Anything else?
Not that it has to, like, not the bread and butter ones. The next section, I've got a lot that I think should go in there for sure.
I feel like the majority will fall into the okay section. It's like,
right.
These are ones you try. These are ones you play with once or twice. These are not ones that you use at the table consistently, just expecting to go into.
And I think a lot of them that are in the next section are going to be ones not so much that I don't think that they should be used. It's that I'm not familiar with them because either I didn't know they were optional rules or I just had never heard of them before. So they're like the unknowns. But
these are the ones just aren't used very often unless you play a lot of Mega Mech specific things where you just click the box and the math happens automatically.
Well, let's get into it because the first one you've got on the list is one of those. Like, why not?
I've actually used this one because I was like, when the scenario comes up and you're playing on the table and it's like, man, I'd really love to use this. And they're like, there's an option rule. Like, you mind if I use this? And that would be the AMS expanded rules, which is you have, first off, it's really two parts to the AMS thing. The one is you can destroy the entire flight of missiles, which is you can't in regular rules.
Right. But why not? Like, if you roll badly enough on your cluster and they've got AMS, why shouldn't it do 0 damage? Because it does if you're firing a Thunderbolt. It can take a Thunderbolt out and you don't get any damage done by that.
Your Honor, my client is clearly insane. He is using the Thunderbolt 5 defense.
They go all the way up to 20.
But yeah, so I can appreciate both. It's really bad feeling to like, hey, I only could fire 2 missiles max and you've shot down the whole flight or something. Like,
yeah, well, like I've got AMS. I paid for it. It should do something.
Yeah. I took the heat. I used the ammo. I've got the cook-off ability in my BB. Yeah. So I'm like, that one's fine. Like, we just don't do it because it's like extra brain power. Like, it's just easy to say like, oh, -4. Okay.
It's because I forgot it was an optional rule. Like it's way down on it's the very, very bottom of the optional rules checklist. So by the time you get there, everyone's eyes are glazed over anyway, because there's a lot of optional rules on that page, like a lot. So yeah, I just forget about it.
That's the defensive part. There's the other half, the offensive AMS expanded rule, which is congratulations, you have a 1-range machine gun.
Hey, I mean, you're not shooting missiles at me. I got all this ammo. I might as well try and use it.
Exactly.
I was in my face. I'm firing everything, and that means everything. It's a gun, isn't it? Does it not shoot?
So here's the funny thing. If you are not using it like a machine gun, it doesn't count as a weapon when you use it. So you could technically punch with an arm that has AMS, even if AMS is shot, because it's not a weapon.
I mean, you watch The Expanse, right?
No.
Like a PDC. Oh, okay. PDC is a personal defense cannon. It just shoots down missiles. They use that offensively a lot when missiles are not being shot at them.
Oh, of course.
You should be able to take a gun and shoot it.
Look, our pilots would open up the cockpit and drive by with their las pistols if they could.
Drive closer so I can blow up the mech with my sword.
His armor's open and I got a grenade launcher. Hold up.
Yeah.
It's range 2, people. He can do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's like I'm okay with it. But I'm just okay with it.
It's fine. I would absolutely allow it if someone's like, "Hey, can we use these optional rules for it?" I'm like, "Sure." It's that's one that makes enough sense to me. I wouldn't remember to mention it myself, but if someone else knows about it, yeah, I would absolutely allow it at my table every time.
I remember that game. I think 2 turns later, the AMS ammo blew up, so it didn't really matter. All right. The next one I have under the OK section is the vehicle optional rules, which is...
Are you talking about like the BSP stuff?
No, I'm talking about like expanded vehicle combat rules in TAC Ops. The crit table has changed.
Right. Yeah, it has. I thought that was just retconned in. I thought that was the rules now. I need to look up the errata for Total Warfare and see. So it didn't make it into Total Warfare. That's just in TAC Ops.
Not as far as I'm aware. These are optional.
Okay. Well, I came unprepared because I thought those were just the new rules.
If they are, we'll find out and we'll cut this section out.
No, actually, we leave it in and just know that sometimes we don't know things.
That's true.
Gasp.
I just remember after that vehicle-only game I played that I then looked these up and I was like, oh, okay, this is different. Because even like the critical hit table was different. But yeah, so like one big thing is like, yeah, the critical table's different. Like the most likely one is now gone. They've reduced the motive type mod by 1. So like your hovercraft
they survive longer.
Yeah, like vehicles stay around longer now. These are rules that you would use if you were playing a more vehicle-based game.
Right. If you play a lot of vehicles, I highly recommend you try these out and see which one you like better, and then agree with your opponent.
Yeah.
But on that same level, because I mentioned the BSP vehicles are also optional rules. And as always, campaign-wise, I say yes, definitely. But if I'm doing vehicles in like a pickup game, maybe not. Because even though they're fantastic for keeping a campaign going, if I am using a Savannah Master in a pickup game for some reason, I would like it to be able to do all the stuff a vehicle can, and BSPs are much, much more limiting. So yeah, it depends on the game I'm playing.
What does the Savannah Master do in BSP card mode?
It's just a little tiny light vehicle that just, it's like every other vehicle. It's just got like a higher move speed, but it dies fast, really fast.
The question is it worth the paper the record sheet it's printed on?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to play with it.
I don't think
find out.
All right. Here's one you're probably more familiar with, Denim. Expanded heat scale. I knew that would get a laugh out of you.
Don't have coolant pods, so how would I know? I have used the expanded heat scale, and it's just more numbers on the page. Once it gets to 30, I don't care. Like my mech is shut down, it may or may not explode. That's as far as I need to go. That's what I've decided. This is not one of those optional rules that I have thought twice about since I played with them. The regular 30 heat scale is fine for me. Mega Mech, there's some Mega Mech games that I may do it, but as far as just on the table, 30 is fine.
The only justification I could see for this is when you're playing with mechs that go up, like can do 30 more heat in one shooting phase, like they are completely weapon with no heat sinks. Like Black Knights aren't even hot enough, kind of thing.
No, that Exterminator is.
Exterminators. Nova's firing 2 arms.
2 arms, yeah. I fire both arms. Okay, well, you do. You Nova. Blam. You're slag.
The Sleepy Warhawks or something from MechWarrior Online, where it's just all ERPPCs. Like, those things. And if your opponent is also have that same style mech, it's like, okay, then we can start getting to, all right, pilot skill-based rolls to avoid shutdown. Neither of us have ammo, so it's just our mechs are grinding down to a halt as we melt into the ground.
Right, but because of that, because it's so it's so situational based, like you're going into a game with the knowledge that you want to use that optional rule, so it's not like a catch-all. You know, should we have this on or off for this game? It's only 99% of the time you'll never use that optional rule, so you're only going to turn it on for very specific games that you have designed a lance that's going to take advantage of that. So in that case, I'm very about the rule. Yeah,
it's kind of like that. So.
Yeah, like not that I wouldn't use it, but I would only use it in very specific situations.
You gotta tell me a week ahead of time that
exactly.
We're doing a
I want some
hot game.
I want some prep for that.
Here's a lower grade one, which, funny enough, is like at Adepticon, the BTCC games are using this. And this
I have been seeing it more and more over the past probably 3 years. I've been seeing it more and more.
I remember it was in effect for my MRC tournament games last year. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like this is one that I've seen creeping in. This is new to the field, and this is backwards movement with level change. How about that?
Right. So you're either going up or down, walking backwards, which normally you can't do. And with this option rule, which is in the Battle Mech manual, you can only make one movement change. You can't or level change. You can't make 2 level changes, and you have to do a PSR. And if you fail, you end up in whichever hex is lower. So you either slide downhill. I mean, you always slide downhill. You never slide uphill, whether it's the hex you started from.
That'd be pretty cool if you could slide uphill.
Yeah. I've been seeing a lot more people asking about it and using it. I don't know if it's because people are actually starting to read the Battle Mech manual now, and they're like, oh, you can do that.
I think so, actually. Like, it's on the list of rules, like the simple-ish rules.
Yeah, and because of that, I don't mind people doing that. I've never said no to anyone who asked if they could have that rule as an optional rule. And it's another one where the only reason why it's not on the bread and butter one is because it doesn't come up that often. So because I teach a lot of beginner games. In a beginner game, I'm not going to tell them they can do that. But anybody who's played more than 3 times, sure, let's turn that one on.
My thought on this is not something that comes up the first time you want to backwards move up a hill. This is something like, hey, before anyone moves, you have to mention, hey, do you want to play with backwards movement?
Right.
Because your opponent needs to also be able to. Like, again,
this is why that checklist exists, because you really do want to go over optional rules before the game starts, so that you're not like, oh, this would be really handy if I could do this, so I'm going to ask right now if we can do that.
Yeah, because things like floating crits, question can be brought up when the floating crit happens. It could never happen. You might go the whole game and be like, your opponent's saying no, and you're saying yes, and it never comes up on if it even applies.
But this one definitely.
You don't need it if you're not playing C3. These are things that don't come up until they do.
Until they do.
Backwards movement is changing the way movement works.
By a lot, yeah.
By a lot. So that's why it's in the, okay, let's talk about this first.
Yes, definitely. That one comes up first. And things like that. So sprinting should also be plugged right into that one. Are you going to be using sprinting? Because you go faster, but you can't shoot. also something you should discuss before the game starts, and not when someone's looking at it going, oh, can I sprint to get to this spot? And they would just be like, that is not beneficial to me, so no. Yeah.
We already playing on small maps. You bring out the BFM, then we can
the
sprint.
BFM sprinting on that 100%.
But it's all fun and games. So someone sprints the Dasher with battle armor riding, and no one's having fun anymore.
Yeah.
All right. I think the last one I have in the OK section is the TAC Ops taking damage and defensive physical weight modifier. These are two, but I feel like they're kind of half of the same coin.
Yeah, because I had the first half of it on my list, but I didn't think about the second half. So
you were like, oh, yeah.
You mentioned that. Yeah. Like,
all right. So
kind of fits in.
It kind of fits. Yeah. The TAC Ops taking damage. This is once you take 20 points of damage, you have to take a PSR. If you take
PSR plus one. Yep.
PSR plus one. If you take 40 points of damage total, now you have to take a plus 2. 60 points plus 3, 80 points plus 4, and so on and so on. So it keeps the damage inflation throughout the eras in check. Kinda.
Yeah, like if you're gonna do a lot of damage to someone, it makes sense, like in a physics way. Like the more damage you take, better chance you have of being knocked off your feet. I remember when I first heard about this optional rule, I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And it's one of those that a lot of people don't realize is an optional rule. They think that that's just how it works because they read 20 points, PSR plus 1, and they read that as every 20 points is a plus 1, like an additional plus 1. But again, it should be cleared with everyone before you start the game. I like this one. I like that part. The every 20 is another plus 1 on top of it. Because I like watching mechs explode. So if I'm taking a lot of damage, it makes sense that my guy gets knocked on his butt.
I don't like watching mechs fall down.
I love watching mechs fall down.
So that's why I'm like, it's okay.
But I also like watching them get up, which is why careful stand is okay to me.
Me and Denim approach the getting down. I get knocked down and I get up again completely differently.
Yeah.
We're tub thumping up in here today. So anyway, the other half of that coin is the defensive physical weight modifier, aka the assaults have a -2 to that.
Yeah, because they're heavier, so it's going to be harder to knock them down. And I get that. I do get that, but that's way more math. And it's BattleTech is an abstract game. It just is. I know it doesn't seem like it sometimes, but it really is an abstraction. So when you're getting into things like that, sure, it makes more sense. And if you guys know what you're doing and you already have all the math pre-calculated, sure, like do that. But for most of the games that I play, people are not that prepared, and I want to be able to finish my game in the time slot that I've got. So let's not do that part.
Yeah, you would need like a little like quick calculator, like almost like an abacus right next to you. Like, all right, I've taken 41 damage, and let's subtract my tonnage here, and then piloting skill, and the total is all right. I need to 5 up, which would be the normal, roughly.
I would turn that on in Mega Mech in a heartbeat. Like, absolutely. A lot of these are Mega Mech only for me. Absolutely, I do that.
I've played with both of these. I did not love them just because, like, okay, my mech that can take more damage is now falling because it's slower, of course. It's not an assault, but it has all the armor, and you've just spread all the damage around. So rather than just like, oh, next turn I'm going to get crits, it's like, no, this turn you're just falling down. I was like, is this speeding up the game? No. It's definitely not speeding up the game. No. But it adds a little tiny bit more, and I'm doing this in quotes so everyone can hear me, realism to this abstract game. Don't bring realism into my tabletop imaginary war game.
I know, it's so scary.
Sir, I make pew pew noises and stompy robot noises at the table. I don't need realism here. So this is where you said you would put most of your optional rules.
I would. So things that are not on your list that I would put in there. Things like one-armed prone fire. Did you know that you cannot, if you've only got one arm, you can't prop yourself up to fire, even though if you've got 2 arms, you're still propping yourself up with one arm and you're firing with the other arm. You can always fire your torso weapons. So why can't you prop it up when you've only got one arm? Like, I don't understand that.
This is one of those.
So I guess
rules
really that goes on the next list.
I rely on this on that one.
Yeah. It's weird to me that's not it. Yeah, it's weird to me that is an optional rule, because I don't understand why you can't prop yourself up with just one arm by default. I don't get that. That rapid fire machine guns, that would be in this section.
I agree.
Yeah.
Are you ready to talk about the ugly?
Yeah, there are some that are really ugly, for sure.
I put stack pulling / also known as engine destruction. That's right. Stack pulling is the rule. Engine destruction is the
Yeah, you put it with self-destruction, and stack pulling is one thing. Blowing your own mech up is an entirely different. That 100% is RPG only. I do not want people to be able to do that intentionally on just a normal pickup game. I don't want that.
Look,
at all. So yes,
that's how the end of Isle of Blessed is the one person self-destructs their mech. They get some radiation burns, don't die, but the mech they just tackled does die. And I was like, well, that was the only unsatisfying part of this entire book.
Anything that you read in a novel is an RPG element. So
I know.
Absolutely. Like do that in your RPGs. Do not do that on the tabletop, please. I don't mind the engine exploding if it takes a lot of damage, like doing a stack pull on that. But I don't want a person to run in there and say, I take off the safeties and blow up my engine. Don't like that.
I'm a booby trap. Boom.
Yeah.
No. The stack pull engine destruction, it's 4 engine hits in one turn, and then you have to roll a 10 up.
Yep.
And I'm like,
yep.
In 3025, pretty difficult. They don't have a lot of engine. Later text, when you've got XLs and then XXLs, there's a lot of crits in there.
Yep. It doesn't happen often. At Hangar 18 last month, we did have that happen in one of our campaign games. And it was a big moment and a bunch of people cheered. It was one of the players' mechs, I think, that got blown up, but a lot of people, I mean, it was exciting. It's
a nice treat, but I wouldn't like it every day.
That's the only one I've seen happen naturally in probably a decade. And I've played a lot of BattleTech, as we know from last episode.
I remember it in one of my MRC Mega Mech games where I had my battle armor like fighting a mech that I'm shooting at, and I hit it, and I hit the engine because it's an XL.
But yeah, on Mega Mech, I actually have seen it like probably maybe maximum of 3 times.
I rolled a 9 on the tabletop when I got it. I was like, oh, no.
Yeah,
it's fine. It's still ugly.
Yeah. Again, I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with self-destruction.
Engines exploding. Take it or leave it. Yeah.
I like explosions. I do.
I put this next one here, and you know why.
Oh, I know why.
And what is it?
I know why. Oh, it's ghost targeting. Another fun thing to do if you've got ECM. What ghost targeting is that if you have ECM, you can configure it to confuse the enemy's targeting sensors over you or one of your teammates that's close by scrambling their signature. So, in my theater of the mind, when the enemy puts their crosshair over you, it kind of does the blurry thing. It goes a little bit crazy. So they can't get good targeting on it. You can stack that too. So you can actually have multiple people ghost target you to get that up. And how you do it is you just make a gunnery skill +3. Might be piloting. I think it's piloting. I think it's piloting.
Okay.
Yeah. It's piloting +3 for some weird reason. And you roll that, and if it happens, then you get to put the +1 on someone. It sounds super overpowered, and I was worried about it when we started using it in the campaign, but I wanted to make ECM more viable, and that was a good way to do it. And then I found out how easy it was to counter. ECM in range totally counters it. Angel ECM counters any number of them because it only uses regular like Guardian ECM to do. If you have an active probe on your mech, it doesn't have to be in range of the active probe. Just you having the active probe ignores all ghost targeting. So there are a lot of ways to get around it. I don't mind it, but I can see where a lot of people don't like it because it seems scarier than it is, especially if you're facing it and you weren't expecting to.
I feel a little personal attack, but I mean, my thing is like I don't like this equipment makes me harder to hit on just a roll. Like stealth armor, I pay heat for, which makes me shoot less.
Mm-hmm. You are physically trying to make something happen and counter the enemy. Like it's electronic warfare, and it's their abstract way of handling that. Is it more of an RPG element? Sure. Would I use it on regular tabletop games, pickup games? No. Will I allow it in my campaign? Absolutely, because it fits there.
I don't like it.
But it is an optional rule.
It's an optional rule.
You can tell people no.
The problem that I find is like ECM, like you go into the ECM is more for like streaks, lock-ons, and C3. And I use a lot of C3. So I'm like, no, ECM doesn't need a bonus already. It already completely shuts down any C3.
Yeah, but if you're using it to ghost target, you can't use it for any of those other things. So it's one or the other.
I don't like it, but I accept it. But I wouldn't want that on like a pickup game at all. I'm like, no, that's gotta be like months in advance. You gotta submit your itinerary.
Yeah, I had somebody come up to me who is in the campaign and uses it a lot in the campaign, and they sat down to play me on a pickup game, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna roll for ghost targeting. I'm like, oh no, that's optional rule. That is for campaign. That's not for here. That's not the game we're playing right now.
Yeah. All right. Next, kind of leading off of our expanded crit hits and damage.
Oh yeah. This is TAC Ops still.
I'd say most of the ugly ones are TAC Ops. Like just
yeah, I agree. Yep, agree with that.
That's where the really dirty stuff is.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Battle Mech Manual, I will say, like I'll just say it right now, did a very good job of picking ones that aren't completely oppressive and are pretty enjoyable and pretty easy for the most part.
I will play with every single one of the Battle Mech Manual ones. I just don't understand why anyone would want to do segmented fire. They say it's to speed up the game. I don't see that speeding up the game. So other than that, pickup games, I will allow any of the Battle Mech Manual optional rules if that's what you want to play with. I'm down with it, for sure. But yeah, TAC Ops, let's get into the ugly.
Yeah, we'll finish up this one. Then I want to hear about your segmented fire. But yeah, so expanded critical hits and damage. This is essentially AC 20s get a +3 because they're 20 damage. Anything over 20 gets +4 to the crit roll. AC 2s get +0. But the crit chart is different now. It's 9 through 10 is 1. 11 through 12 is 2. 13 and 14, that's right. You need the modifiers to get up there to get 3. And then a 15 is the 3 crit rolls or a limb blown off. So,
right. Yeah. It's more math, more like it's where they're trying to cram more realism into the abstracted game. And again, if you have played BattleTech for decades and you have every single table memorized, and you don't mind having, some more realism-ish stuff, go for it. But that's not a Tuesday night game at the gaming store type thing. We only have a couple hours to play. Let's not do that. Let's do that a weekend one at somebody's house. Then we can do that.
Yeah.
Because again, that's what we used to do back in the old days. Is we used to say, okay, I'm going to come over to your house Friday afternoon, and I will leave Sunday after brunch. And we will just play BattleTech. And yeah, we've got all the time in the world for these rules for that. So yeah, I'm not going to play this one.
I think could be fun if you're running an all Assault Lance against someone's all Assault Lance, but that's really it.
Right. And again, that's fine. But this isn't a like the under the okay list where, hey, let's talk about this right before the game starts type of thing. Mm-hmm. This is a let's talk about this before we decide to play at all next week type of thing.
We're just still in the jading phase now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's a whole different thing.
All right. You said the only thing you wouldn't do on Battle Mech Manual is segmented fire.
Right. Segmented fire. I will actually read this one out because it's a weird, okay, we know that the phase for shooting, resolving fire is officially, once you're done moving, You use the initiative phase to declare fire, and then each person fires the weapons that they declared against their opponent, and they roll for all the damage, and they go on to the next mech. So even though damage is simultaneous, you still resolve it like one bit at a time. So if you get an arm blown off or something, your opponent can still fire with that when it comes to his or her phase to fire back. Segmented fire says, as seen in the process outlined at left, after all players have declared their attacks, normally each player completely resolves the weapon attack phase actions of each mech one at a time from resolution to damage before moving on to the next mech. As an option to speed up play, after all players have made their attack declarations, all players may then make all 2 hit rolls for all attacks declared that phase before any damage by any mech is resolved. That just seems like I'm going to have a notepad there to write down which weapons hit before I need to resolve any damage. It just seems like extra steps in my flowchart that happens in my brain. I don't see how that's speeding things up.
I feel like I need like my smooth brain just can't process it.
Now I know to speed games up at the store, a lot of times we will skip that whole fire declaration phase or just abbreviate it, saying this mech is going to fire at that mech, but then you don't go over every single weapon that happens. And we've had discussions about the pros and cons of that on other episodes, of course. If I'm playing a serious game, I want all weapon declarations done. Like I want you to be very specific about which weapons and what modes you're using. But for a friendly game, I don't really care as much.
Is this just fire for effect, kind of?
I thought it was, and I was trying to read it in a way to find out if it was fire for effect, because that would kind of make sense. If so, it's just worded a little bit weird to me. It's just worded in such a way that trying to parse what that paragraph means is already slowing the game down, like already. But if it's saying that it's fire for effect, sure, I'm all for that. Using that as an optional rule if that's what you want to do for a friendly game, not for a tournament game though. I don't want that for a tournament game.
It sounds like it's just the fire for effect, the same concept, just different application. And fire for effect being the Adepticon last year, mechs declare shots as they are firing, essentially.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
My brain is just looking at it like a jumbled mess. I can't. I'll have to talk to the person who wrote it, figure out if there's a better way to phrase that. Who knows? Just because it's confusing, I wouldn't do that one. But if that just means it's the fire for effect rule that we've already been using, then I'm okay with that. We
got just 2 more. These are ones that I would never want to play with, which is glancing blows. If you miss by 1, you 2 half damage. It sounds simple. It sounds simple.
Okay, here's the thing. The first time I learned about this optional rule, I was 100% in. I'm like, this is amazing. I pilot an adder. It will have better survivability. My urban mechs will last longer. This is amazing. And I played two games using the glancing blows. Very quickly, I'm like, this is just BS. I am not. You have to remember that you've got it. You have to be paying attention to every single roll that happens. And then you're always like, oh, that last shot that you hit me. What was that? Was that, did you hit by 1? I don't remember. And then there's a whole argument and stuff. It gets crazy. And it also stacks with the quirks, like the quirk with low narrow profile. Yeah. And if you're stacking it with that, then it's a quarter damage. And it's just, and then you put like hardened armor on that mech. It's one of those things that I will allow my players in campaigns to take just because they're supposed to be the heroes. They're supposed to be overpowered. This is a hard no for me in a pickup game. And absolutely not in a tournament. I am not a fan of this optional rule outside of campaign or role-playing purposes.
I could see this in Solaris being okay.
That'd be great. Great in Solaris.
One mech versus 1 mech.
Yep.
And you're getting more shots.
Still annoying.
Still annoying. But it's like, hey, I'm hitting you on 8s, and like, oh, all your 7s are half damage. It's like, okay, but I can remember that.
Yeah, to be fair, I allow more options in Solaris than I do even in my campaigns. There's stuff I won't allow in my campaigns that for Solaris, I'm like, bring it.
There's almost a reason why Solaris has its own separate rulebook.
I know. I can't wait if they do a new box set for Solaris someday. I'm so excited.
I looked this up because I was like, what is the worst? What is the absolute worst TAC Ops rule that people have actually played with on the table and refused to play with it ever again? And then what I found was the majority of that was really Woods cover.
See, you and I disagree on this. After we do this, I will tell you what my worst one is. But go for it.
This was me scouring the internet for what people, random people on the internet who may not be real, said. And they said, if a unit is in Woods, instead of giving like a light Woods gives +1 to hit it, instead you get +0, and that Woods takes all the fire until that Woods is destroyed. It is essentially
you're using the trees to block. Yeah,
and I'm like,
trees to block.
That's dumb.
It's. I understand the concept of it. I do. The amount of time it's going to take to keep track of every single Woods hex. Because then you have to write down like all the Woods hexes and how much damage they take. Mm-hmm. Sure, Mega Mech, it might be okay. I agree with you. I agree that I would never, ever, 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 ever use this one. Ever. With the exception of Mega Mech. I would allow people to try it on a Mega Mech, but for tabletop, absolutely not. Nope.
Try it. Don't. Yeah. But try it.
I wouldn't do it. Mine for that one, though, my response to that is advanced smoke and fire rules, which are an optional rule. Once you're on the tabletop and you have to roll for every single hex of fire and smoke, and that gets really, really bad. Even in Mega Mech, if you turn that on, once a fire is started, everything's on fire. Just everything's on fire. It's Mega Mech or tabletop. I don't like it. Absolutely never on tabletop will I do advanced smoke and fire. Never.
There's one forest and he refuses to give it advanced smoke and fire.
Yeah, because at both of those, Woods cover and smoke and fire are just going to bring your game down to a crawl. Some optional rules should just stay
optional.
Should stay no. Yeah.
What I think they need to do, I think they should have like a charts for like, here's a positive, here's a neutral, and here's a negative. Like today we're playing with, and you roll like a D10 or D20. It's like, today you're playing with careful stand. And then you roll the next one. It's like with expanded heat scale. And the last one is, ooh, but you're playing with glancing blows. It's like, oh no.
Well, like ejection is an optional rule. And it means that anytime you take an ammo explosion or anything treated as an ammo explosion, if your auto eject is on, you eject. And by default, it's on. Mm-hmm. So whether you've got case or not, because now that we've got case and case 2 and things like that, your pilot can definitely survive. Your mech can survive. But if you forgot to turn your auto eject system off as soon as that ammo gets critted, that mech is out of the game. And so, that one can bite you a bit. So it's also one that should be talked about, but nobody ever does. Like everybody just assumes that if they have an ejection system, it's turned off. And if you mention it to someone in the middle of the game when they get hit, they laugh as if you're joking. So ejection rules should be talked about.
We'll save ejection for its own episode.
Because, there's actually a lot of rules about ejection and if your pilot survives or not. So I guess it really only matters if you are playing something persistent, something where the life of the pilot matters in the long run, like from battle to battle.
It matters to me.
Well, yeah, it does to a lot of people.
My headcanon, just my in-game lore of my random band of random mechs that show up on Tuesdays and play. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, that pilot of that mech died 12 times. What? That doesn't make sense. Never ejected. Took it to the face every time.
Every time. So if you haven't played with optional rules, try them. There are a lot of really good ones out there, and some not so good ones that you should try anyway, just once.
If you had to pick one optional rule that you would play with,
like one optional rule that would not be optional.
Yes.
Or if we just had one on, period.
Oh,
God, it would probably be. See, it wouldn't be the flamer one because I don't use enough flamers.
You're like, even if you gave that to me.
Probably the one arm prone fire, because I find myself on the ground with just one arm a lot, and I don't understand why that's not just how it works anyway.
You stay on the ground. You don't deserve to fire.
No. If I had to only pick one, it would be the retractable blade optional rule where you could punch with it retracted and it goes chunk and gets an automatic crit chance hit if you punch someone.
I thought that was
you punch it.
I thought that was just how it worked, and I was so sad when I learned that was optional. I was like,
it's an optional rule, but it's in the Battle Mech manual. So that's if I could only play with one, that would be the one.
Celestial players everywhere are sad.
Yeah.
They're like, that's our one optional rule besides, VDNI and cyborg enhancements. Just give us retractable blades. For me, it's tough because none of these I feel like are mandatory. Like, I have played no optional rule games and been perfectly happy.
Oh, yeah, agreed. But pick one anyway.
Yeah, I think would probably just be floating crits. Just because.
Right, I was going to say, if you didn't pick floating crits, 1,000 of our listeners would be shouting, floating crits are not an optional rule into whatever device they're listening.
And it's only because I don't mind if the game slows down like a little bit when we learn like, oh, you're right. It has been like 20 games since I took a hip hit and still lived.
I understand the draw for floating criticals. It's just not as important to me as it is to a lot of other players.
It has its place. It's there for fun.
And it's in the Battle Mech manual. I will allow it for sure.
There's optional rules. Some of them optional. Some of them recommended. Some of them leave at home.
Do not.
Don't even bring it to Mega Mech.
We put it in a little box. It says do not open.
All right. You got anything else to say, Denim?
I mean, just the normal. You can contact us at the mechbaypodcast@gmail.com. Check us out on Facebook and Discord. And a special thank you to all of our Patrons. So really, the rules are optional, but playing the game isn't. So get out there and roll some dice.